Michael Watts here, and I'm at one of my favourite places. It's the Turnstone Guitars Workshop, and I'm here with my dear friend Rosie Heydenrych of Turnstone Guitars. Hello, Rosie.
Hello.
So you will have seen, you should have anyway, a previous episode of my series Luthier Stories, where we went into some depth about Rosie's very interesting processes and philosophy when it comes to building beautiful handmade flat top acoustic guitars.
This is my TG, so it's my biggest model, which is kind of similar to a grand auditorium, so it's kind of got the bigger lower bout, tighter waist, probably not too much shorter than Dreadnought in length.
Right. That was in the first series of Luthier Stories. For those of you who have asked, and there have been quite a lot of you, yes, series 2 is in the works at the moment. First of all, I'm going to get my second album out of the way, or at least break the back of it. You can catch up with my progress on that in my album recording diary, which is also here on my YouTube channel. But yes, you've been very busy. You've just come back from the NAMM show. I
have, yeah.
Tell us all about that.
Mental, I think, is a good
That's always been the impression
word.
I've had.
It's phenomenally big.
Mm.
You can't kind of even begin to envisage how big it is. It takes over the whole of the Anaheim Convention Center, which is just this monstrosity of a building, well, numerous buildings where, so you've got any kind of company in the musical instrument industry launching their products, showing their wares, touting their wares. If they're not there, then I don't know where they are, because I think everybody in the musical instrument industry is there in those 4 days.
And what sort of contrast have you noticed between something like that and, say, a show like Woodstock, which concentrates on the luthier-made instrument?
Yeah, I mean, they are completely two different kettle of fish. I mean, the Woodstock show is very specific to steel string acoustic instruments. NAMM is the opposite end of the spectrum. The size of Woodstock compared to NAMM is completely different, equally. Yeah, the type of people that are coming to NAMM as well are completely different. So it's been kind of interesting for me to go to see kind of my angle on what's in it for me and the type of people that I'm talking to, which, so it's kind of, it's been
Fantastic.
Fun.
You've been in a book, Rosie. Actually, we've both been in books.
We've both been in literature.
We've both been in literature. We've got to the point now we won't actually read books that we're not in.
No.
What's this one? This is guitar.
This is, kind of does what it says on the tin.
That's very nice.
Guitar. So it's a book by David Schiller, who's based in New York, and he's done a book like this before. So this is kind of a second edition, as it were, of him basically going through a list of guitars that he likes the look of, explaining a bit about them, about the person who made it or the company, a bit of history, and then a smattering of some Joni Mitchell, for example, a little bit about her, but then,
a bit of background, players, instruments.
Exactly. So
the world's most seductive instrument, you could say. Yeah, I can agree with that.
So I am, not that I remember the page,
not
number 187.
That it just falls open at the bit.
But so he asked me, he contacted me and said he was interested in what I was doing, and would I be a part of it? So of course I was honoured, and
there it is.
There's my contribution, which is an all-English guitar. So I think one of the angles that he was interested in was the use of alternative timbers, because there's another section which he lists at the back of different guitars using a whole bunch of different timbers. So but it's a privilege to be a part of it, and I'm next to Joshua de Jong.
Oh, Joshua de Jong. Yes. Oh wow, another wonderful builder.
Yeah.
Sergei's daughter.
Yeah.
Going back to this idea of alternative turnwoods, that's something that I've been looking forward to talking to Rosie about this, and one particular tonewood, Bog Oak. It's difficult.
Fenland black oak.
Yeah, I struggle calling it just Bog Oak because it's such beautiful wood, and there have been various attempts to bring it to market with some fairly preposterous names. I've heard Royal Fenland Oak. And
I dabbled with that.
Yeah.
But I stuck with Fenland Black Oak.
Fenland Black Oak, and then you kind of feel tempted to put the ancient bit in as well, don't you?
Yes, and I do definitely throw that in every now and again.
Because some of this stuff can be like 5,000 years old. So it is potentially wonderful wood. I don't think, and you can back me up on this or not, I'm not sure that it's a material that immediately reveals its secrets to the builder. Would you agree with that?
I would completely agree with that, in that it doesn't have the tap tone that you would associate to something like a rosewood. But then again, neither does, in my opinion, ebony or something.
Right, yeah, also
all the different tone woods obviously have their characteristics. It's kind of been interesting for me to discover what it is about it that I like, and what it is about it that it can't do. And through my bracing, through choices of other woods, to try and bring in basically what I feel that it lacks.
One of the things that got me thinking about this was this issue of Guitarist Presents Acoustic. Once again, you're featured, Rosie. Yeah. Do you know what page?
No. But kind of mid. There you go.
Here we go. Carving out a place for UK woods. And your work once again gets pride of place. So since we first met, Rosie, you've given me guitars to play from all sorts of beautiful English woods, including yew on the soundboard and things like that. What is it about British woods that you enjoy tonally?
Well, I think what I enjoy is actually finding out what it is about them that makes them unique, both aesthetically, but most importantly, tonally.
Right.
So it's been really interesting to find both what it is it's good at, but equally from a player's point of view, where it kind of really shines. So as an example, with the yew soundboard, I'm kind of like quite a soft fingerstyle player, so I did actually enjoy it for the intricate and the chime element of the tone that came through. When I gave it to, for example, somebody who was a jazz musician looking to transition into, acquire a steel string, but still kind of will play in the same way. Equally, somebody who kind of comes from a flamenco background looking to kind of start to move into steel string, that it really worked for them because it doesn't kind of top out when it's struck really pretty hard. So to see that and hear the way that it's playing and the way that the yew reacted to that type of playing was really interesting for me. And that was obviously coincidental that I worked out that that's maybe a foray into a certain playing style that could suit a certain wood. So it's kind of interesting to see. I mean, I guess with using traditional woods as well, you start to learn with what the woods are good at, what their characteristics are. So pretty much in the same respect, I'm using woods that have different densities, different properties, using them in different ways, finding what they're good at, perhaps what they're not good at. Equally within different body sizes, some really shine. I mean, it's kind of a bit of a rabbit hole, but it's a
good rabbit hole.
It's a really good rabbit hole.
Context,
and it really kind of, the more that I've used English wood, the more it gives me confidence that there is something there that is to definitely stand behind it and say, I feel that I can build really good guitars out of these woods. So.
Well, I mean, for me, not being a luthier, but having commissioned one or two guitars over the years, wood has never been more than a source of potential. I've played instruments in the Holy Grail combinations, like let's say Cuban mahogany and Adirondack spruce, or Brazilian rosewood and Adirondack spruce, and in some cases they have been just extraordinary, and in others less so, and I put that down more to the skill of the builder than any fault with the wood themselves. It's just really what you're pulling out of them. And what I find fascinating with your approach is you say it's a rabbit hole, but what's evident in your building is the amount of work and the amount of detailed analysis and intuition that's gone into building these woods. I'm really enjoying that. Today we did 3 guitars.
Yes.
Right? And each one was very different. They featured woods that I've never played before, which I always know is going to happen. I come here and Rosie will give me something. What is this? I've never played that before. What was it this time on the soundboard?
English grown Monterey Cypress.
English grown Monterey Cypress. Now, I've played Cypress in the context of flamenco guitars on the back and sides, and also in the context of Greek instruments. Obviously, they use a lot of Cypress in Greek guitars, but this was my first English grown Monterey Cypress on the top of all things, and I really enjoyed it.
Said I've got some English grown Western red cedar, which I bought, which I made a fair few guitars from. I went back to him and he coincidentally said, I've just come across some Monterey Cypress timber, and did I want to have a look at it? And obviously I'm kind of, now that I realise that in the case of Western red cedar that it works, that there are some things that may work. So I said, okay, I'll take a few sets of the Monterey Cypress. And I guess that going back to kind of the intuition thing is that feeling it kind of has the feel of cedar. So I thought, okay, well, I'm kind of going along the lines of that it's going to sound pretty much like cedar. But having built with it a prototype with, I think I used English cherry on the back and sides, that I realised immediately that it has a kind of a chime to it that isn't the same as cedar.
No,
which you may have...
not under the fingers. It was. It reminded me a little bit of redwood.
Okay.
I think once again, like the U soundboard, you mentioned the fact that you never sort of. You can't really overdrive it to the point of distortion. That's a characteristic I've noticed with redwood in the past.
Yeah.
You get, it's almost like a limiter in the studio. It stops. You don't get any louder, but it's clear all the way up. And with you, I think you just get a little bit more headroom than you would with redwood. With this Monterey, I keep wanting to call it Monterey Jack.
do
With this Monterey, under the fingers it felt very lively and responsive. There was a real chop to it, and it made me wonder what it would sound like with a pick as well. Obviously, the demos that I do are exclusively fingerstyle, but I reckon you could really dig in with some flat picking stuff there. There's an immediacy to the, I mean, it is lightning fast.
Yeah.
And obviously that's down to your bracing as well, but it really, really gives it out very quickly indeed. So yeah, it was as always, it was just a wonderful and novel experience of being faced with something completely new, and that's one of the joys of coming here. Yeah. So thank you very much for that. Viewers, if you are wondering which book I'm in, it's called The Devil Is In It. It's by John Stubbings, and I actually have in my hard drive right now an interview with John, which I will be editing over the coming week, and I'm sure you'll enjoy it. The book is absolutely wonderful. Did you enjoy it?
I loved it. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
There you go. Rosie enjoyed it. I've enjoyed it. I think everybody who's read it has really got a lot out of it. There's a lot to get your teeth into there, but I don't want to spoil the surprise. You can find out more about it in the video when it comes out. What else would you like to talk about, Rosie? Oh, we're going to Berlin.
We've got a big show ahead of us.
We do.
So the Holy Grail Guitar Show is in its finale, fifth and final show, and connecting us once again together. Yes. Michael will be performing for me. So if you are coming along, which I think it's early May. It's the 2nd of May. 2nd and 3rd of May.
Yeah, because the 2nd's my birthday.
Oh, okay, now we know.
Yeah.
I'll tell my other friends and we can plan something accordingly for you. Yeah, absolutely, the luthier bumps. So yeah, you will be performing for me. I
will be doing a mini concert for people who haven't attended a Lutherie show. There's this slightly strange concept called the mini concert, where a guitarist is given a completely unfamiliar instrument and then expected to demonstrate within about a quarter of an hour that the instrument is wonderful, but also that they have the chops to be there in the first place, because you can imagine a show of like 2,000 guitarists. Everybody wants to be there. Where you are right now, so you get a bright light shining in your face. Charlie Hunter described it as a guitar interrogation, and it really is that. And you never know quite what you're going to be playing through either. Sometimes I've turned up and it's been like unplugged outside, so the audience has been literally almost on your lap, like some sort of acoustic lap dance. Other times you get in Berlin, actually, they've always taken care of me. There's been a great PA system. I've brought my own microphones, but even then, there's been like a pair of Neumanns or something on the stage, so you know that there's quality involved. You never know quite what you're going to get. You never know what the room's going to be like. Sometimes it's just a sort of anonymous conference room. Sometimes it's a beautiful sort of stage. Sometimes your audience is quiet and wants to listen. Sometimes they don't. So it's always a bit of a baptism of fire, but it really does help concentrate the mind from a player's point of view, and it's a really interesting process when it comes to capturing people's attention and making the stage your own, because at any one time you don't know who's passed through the stage that day. I remember playing in Montreal in between Charlie Hunter and Tony McManus, and that's a fairly ferocious lineup, and I was sitting there going, oh my god, the people who have come to see Charlie are only sitting through my set so they can get retain their seats to for when Tony turns up, but you've got to sort of visualize your way through thoughts like that and just enjoy it for what it is. I'm looking forward to it. It's the first time I've demoed your instruments.
Yes, it will be
live in reality rather than on the internet. I mean, this has always been a process that I've enjoyed. It's always kind of seat of your pants, but I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, and I think it gives, because obviously we have our guitars on a table, and there is opportunities. And what's great actually about the Holy Grail is that you have demo rooms, and that's at NAMM as well. They have a thing called a whisper booth. Right. So for us acoustic makers who usually don't stand a chance with anybody being able to actually hear it, obviously that gives players an opportunity. But with the demos, it kind of enables people who have visited your table, seen the guitars, to see it in the context of a live performance.
Absolutely.
it massively helps me to try and explain what I'm trying to achieve with the instruments through the voice of the guitar.
Absolutely right. And we've known each other for a couple of years now, and I think it's got to the point now where you know my playing and I know your building. So even though, as I said, it's very often a completely alien instrument, the fact that it comes from you means that I know what I can get away with. Yeah. I know where the instrument's going to support me, and I guess really I trust your guitars, because I'm in a lucky position. I get a lot of people asking if I'd be available, and more often than not I have to decline simply due to time constraints. But also, I want to be able to offer the best of my playing, and a brand new instrument from someone who I've never played for before. That feels almost like too much of a risk. Yeah. So, yeah. And
like you said, you've got nowhere to go in a live performance. Yeah. You're in it for the next 20 minutes. So, but yeah, equally, I trust your playing, and I know that it brings out the expressions that I want to hear. So
we'll see.
It's a good partnership.
We'll see. I'm really looking forward to it. What are you bringing to Berlin?
So,
any of the guitars I played today?
Yeah, the Cutaway, the mahogany and spruce Cutaway TM. And then I'll have something new for you coming up, which is a Cutaway TG, which is my first Cutaway of my biggest model.
Right. And
on that one is on the soundboard a Cedar of Lebanon, English grown. See, I like to surprise you to a certain degree. Yeah, it's one of those things that I go back to my supplier and they say, look, I'm starting to get a name for myself now that, if you find something funny, contact Rosie. But yeah, so that's, I think that's quite it's technically a cedar, but it's a lot harder again than Western red cedar. Mm-hmm. So it'll be, I'm building a Cutaway TG, and that has English walnut back and sides. And that has a story in itself, which they talk about in that magazine about the Queen Victoria.
The Queen Victoria
walnut tree, which blew down in a storm.
Okay, it'll be.
I think it's
the Queen's nuts.
Yeah.
Oh, how lovely. Yes. So, the U.S. government gave a walnut sapling to Queen Victoria, who planted it in the Royal Gardens at Kew. So it came from the U.S.
The seedling?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, do we know what it is? Is it like Claro or Bastogne?
Well, when I was just saying, I said black because it looks. I'm building another guitar with black walnut, and it looks very similar.
Okay, black walnut it is. Planted by Queen Victoria. We all love an origin story. Yeah, there's so many wood marketing stories out there. I mean, obviously the trees, the big one. And then there's the mahogany mama and all manner of Sinker redwoods, Tunnel 13 redwoods, all this sort of stuff. Some of it's great. Some of it is kind of try hard.
Yeah.
Oh, Egley's in here. Soul operators like Adrian Lucas in Lincoln.
Yeah. Adrian uses a lot of English timber.
Yes, he does.
As well, and reclaimed
Right,
as
yeah,
well.
yeah.
Actually, going back to the Holy Grail, they've done the local wood challenge for a number of years where you had to build, which I took part in, and this year they're doing reclaimed, which I'm not taking part in, but I know Adrian is building a completely reclaimed. His interest lies a lot in finding reclaimed wood of old chairs and benches and
stairs and stuff like that. Yeah.
Quite often that the quality of that wood is just amazing.
Oh yeah,
when it was so plentiful.
One of the things about English bank counters and bars, they use a lot of Cuban mahogany in the 1800s.
Banisters.
Yeah. Great necks coming out of banisters, and obviously the British had a lot of access to Cuban mahogany because they'd stash it out in the Caribbean for the Navy. So there were secret stashes of mahogany that had been grown around the Caribbean, and a lot of that, when it wasn't used for ships, would make its way back to the UK, specifically to London. And so there's a lot of really high quality, especially mahogany, but also rosewood to some extent, available here.
So since we last met, my husband Carl has been working ever more with me.
Yes.
And so we do the finishing work now completely ourselves. He sprays. I'm flatting and buffing at the moment, but I'm sure that's something that he will start to take on. Lots of the prep work he's doing, and kind of a lot of the workshop set up when we were getting this kind of all set up and getting all the machines. So that's been really interesting to start to have somebody else involved, which kind of brings new dimensions and makes you think about things. One of the things that I especially love is just having a second head for some things, because sometimes you get obviously in your own mind trying to fix, guitar making does deliver its mysteries every now and again, and when you're trying to work some things out, it just really helps to talk about it and explain, because actually thinking of it in your head, I find, often doesn't help me come to a solution. I go round and round and round, but to just say, look, this is where I'm at with this problem that I'm encountering, can I explain it to you? And you just, and the more obviously that he's getting involved, the more he understands that, like, he can't build a guitar, but he knows about neck angles and all that kind of stuff, because it's just one of those things that I was able to talk about, and him just reflecting it back to me helps me come up with that. And I was saying that maybe this space I've been in for 3 and a bit years now, that now that I'm making generally about 3 or 4 guitars at a time, I'll finish the woodwork on those guitars, they'll go off a finish. When they then come back and I'm still getting on with the other ones, it's getting in here, especially sometimes when there's 2 of us in here, it's getting a bit cramped. And the one thing that I learned, especially from moving when I was in my smaller workshop to this workshop, is that layout space really helps as far as kind of having everything flowing. Having a workspace that enables that is paramount for me personally. So it's kind of getting to that stage again where things are starting with the amount of instruments, it's starting to feel a bit cluttered again, and to potentially we're looking at getting a bit bigger. So it's always difficult, and it's always one of those things you kind of have to strike a balance, because with more space often comes more cost and more demands for things to come and go to a certain degree. So we're kind of feeling our feet with it always as we go along, but it always has its challenges, but it has its exciting elements as well.
And has your further exposure in the USA, has it led to new relationships and new clients? I mean, it's with shows like NAMM, I guess my point of view is that it's the long game. Yeah, of course.
That some people, they'll say, oh, have you sold a guitar? And for me, it's not about that. I mean, obviously if you take a guitar to sell, that's an added bonus, but for me, the amount of time and the effort that I put into going to NAMM, for me it has to be about kind of the 10-year on mark, in that I'm starting to establish my name and talking to Steve Kaufman. He works with Steve Klein.
Yes, indeed.
I literally just chew his ear off when I'm at NAMM because he's got so much great advice. And one of the things that he said was just, you know, part of it is just you standing by your guitars in a professional setting and saying, look, I'm standing behind my work and this is what I'm doing.
Absolutely.
And I noticed, and as I have subsequently noticed through going to shows numerous times, that you just start to get this kind of the way that people respond to you is just start like, okay, I know you now, I'm interested. Let me bring my friend over.
Exactly.
I recognize you, I've seen you in a magazine, or I visited your website. And it's all of these things that they just take time. You just have to
it's incremental, isn't it?
Exactly. And it can be difficult, and I understand that you know, if you have a show that you were expecting to sell guitars at and it doesn't happen, it can leave you feeling pretty kind of down and out. But it's hard because it is the long game.
Yeah.
So that's kind of my angle with shows like, especially with something like NAMM.
Yeah, I can understand that. I mean, I'm still not 100% convinced that for the Soul Luthier guitar shows, for all their joys, are the most effective sales tool. I think they're great as marketing. I think they're great when it comes to relationships. But I think you could almost get away with doing that behind closed doors without the public.
I actually have to say I disagree
Really?
with that. Yeah, I would say that although direct sales are few and far between at shows, I'll be pretty sure that most of the people I've sold to I've met at shows.
Really? Oh, that's fantastic.
So whether it's a few years down the line, whether I have found an opportunity through meeting somebody at a show that's led to meeting other people, or yeah, I would say that it's actually a lot more than you would initially predict.
That's good to know. And another thing that's worth bearing in mind is the fact that you are at a price point that takes you out of the impulse buy mindset, and I'm sure there are people out there that very much would love to own one of your instruments. They're just not fiscally in a position to move on that yet.
Yeah.
So I'm sure that relationship will continue over the years until that is a reality for them.
And also that they would tell a lot of their friends about you. So it's kind of, I think they call it the second customer mentality of, even if somebody does like but can't afford, they'll be sure to tell a lot of people. And that, in the same respect as the going back to shows, that network of people slowly starts to increase. And then as you are exposed at other events in magazines, it all starts to marry itself together.
Absolutely.
I've got a question for you, Michael.
Hang on. Wait till I'm stable.
So I mean, I would imagine that it's kind of that what I'm talking about is very similar from a musician's point of view. Is that going out and seeing people? Is that the word of mouth is the way to start making a name for yourself? Absolutely.
I mean, I'm very grateful for the audience that I have. I'm also very very cognizant of the fact that a lot of them are over in the US and Canada. So I don't play that often here in the UK. I maintain contact with my audience through this YouTube channel. But it's mostly it's guitar shows or guitar-centric shows. I know for a fact that my relationship with my audience depends on a close contact, a close environment, an ability to communicate with subtlety and nuance, and that doesn't necessarily happen in the back room of the Red Lion. It can be tricky to find an audience. So with this new album, things are a bit different because I've taken the music a little bit past the solo fingerstyle kind of thing, and I'm also Cries of Judas. I'm
gone to the dark side.
I've gone to the dark side. I'm using different guitars. I'm using some of those electrical guitars that you read about, and I mean, they've still got air in them, They still count.
Okay, you're halfway there, but
they've
still.
got air in them, and I've used microphones on them, so that I haven't gone completely plugged in yet. I mean, the electric guitar is a completely different idiom. It's like a different language, as is the archtop. It's tempting to think that because they're so closely related, you can jump from one to the other. That's never been my experience. The steel string guitar is the context in which I have learned to create and communicate with the greatest amount of fluency, perhaps more than any language that I speak as well. You know, and certainly playing instruments by luthiers who concentrate on nuance and colour rather than power and bluegrass fury. You know, has helped me in that journey, and it's always going to be part of my life. I don't see myself going back to nylon string because that's how I started. I don't see that happening. I would love a really great archtop. You know what? I'd really just love an ES 175 with a 1 3/4 inch nut, but they don't do that. You know, so what are you going to do? Maybe Chris Mirabella, or Linda Manzer, or Mike Greenfield.
Megan Wells, she makes an amazing archtop guitar.
Nice guitars.
Tyler LHT.
Oh man, I love those things.
Yeah, he was at NAMM, and I literally went up to him and said, "I really like your work."
He did one with a sort of like gold foil weirdness on the top.
Yeah.
I require that guitar.
You should. It's
if I'd known, I would have asked you to sleeve it for me and bring it back. Sorry, this just needs to come back to England. Yeah, it's funny because a lot of these guys are on Instagram, but I haven't actually played their stuff IRL. So that makes things a little bit difficult. I know for a fact that, Linda's work,
it's phenomenal
in both archtop and flat top context just destroys me. Playing that iceberg guitar that she made for the Group 7. I'm going to have a chat actually with a mate of mine out in Colorado, Sean McGowan, who is a proper jazz player, and I've asked him to educate me in the ways of the jazz bogs and see where we go from there. All of this is because Costal won't build one. So you've done a lot of steel string guitars.
Yeah.
You've done one nylon string guitar.
Yeah.
What's next? Are you going to build any archtops?
Jason.
So it's been an absolute joy, as always. Thank you very much for letting me play your guitars. I hope you guys have enjoyed the demos that have come up on my channel, so you get a better idea of what it is that Rosie's doing in the sphere of the flat top acoustic. I'll see you in Berlin.
Very much looking forward to it.
Until next time, stay tuned.